Senator John Kennedy is one of our favorites, as you know. He gives us great videos on a regular basis, but this one is actually less about Senator Kennedy than it is about Mika Brzezinski from MSNBC, who had a lot to say about this exchange yesterday on Capitol Hill.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and...
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me start it from the beginning. We're going to cut to that spot in just a sec, but I do want to start it from the beginning.
Why do you think that Chicago has become America's largest outdoor shooting range? Do you think it's because of Chicago citizens who have no criminal record, but who have lawfully a gun in their home for protection or perhaps for hunting? Or do you think it's because of a finite group of criminals who have rap sheets as long as King Kong's arm?
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there's certain...
What about Chicago?
So I don't live in Chicago. It's not my primary area of research.
You don't have an opinion on that?
I think there's easy access to firearms combined with environmental conditions, lack of great education. There have actually been studies showing that when you green vacant lots and repair abandoned buildings in urban neighborhoods, you see decreases in gunshots, in violence, as well as in stress and depression in the neighborhoods around them.
No disrespect, Doc, but that sounds a lot like word salad to me.
You want to talk about word salad?
It's given racism, Mika.
That was racist, elitist, so condescending.
And ill-informed.
Ill-informed and insulting. So, Senator, just for the record, you're dead wrong. And your insinuations, your tone, and your choice of words is simply repulsive, and it shows who you are. Doesn't trigger us here. We're not surprised. We've seen a lot of this.
I will note, they say his accent is fake. I don't know. People should just look it up.
Well,
that's my favorite part. By the way, his accent is fake. I don't think it's fake. If it is fake, though, I love him even more that he's decided to put this drawl on when he's questioning people, so they underestimate him. But he's racist. Now, I guess they're saying that he's racist because he used the term King Kong's arms, because objectively speaking, King Kong does have very long arms. But they're saying, well, that's a black city and King Kong is a gorilla. Well, first of all, King Kong is pretend. There's no such thing as King Kong. Okay, so I think it's important that we all recognize that, number one. Number two, I think you have to be racist to immediately leap to the conclusion that by referencing King Kong's arms, clearly you're referring to African Americans. I mean, how racist? It doesn't get any more racist than that. But number three, you'll hear them say that he was ill-informed, misinformed, and just wrong about the facts. And they're pointing to this part of the exchange. As I said, we're going to start right there.
So Mississippi...
By the way, wait, I did this yesterday too, because we pointed it out when all the TikTok people were reading the Quran. What's with starting a sentence with so? What is that? Who does that? This is a Yale professor. She's a doctor after all. I mean, she's not that kind of doctor. She's a Jill Biden kind of doctor. If you're over at this woman's house and you suffer some kind of injury, you cut yourself, you're starting to bleed out, she will be no help. You will die. Okay, so stop calling yourself doctor. That said, apparently she's Dr. So, because she starts a sentence with so. All right, go ahead, so.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there's certain...
What about Chicago?
So I don't live in Chicago. It's not...
She also doesn't live in Mississippi or Louisiana, but she was fine giving an opinion about that. I don't live in Chicago. What does that even mean? But she does go on to suggest that if there's a vacant lot, if you plant it with crops and greenery, that'll solve the problem. I'm originally from Detroit. They've been doing that actually for the last 10, 15 years because, Democrats have been in charge of Detroit for decades now, and it's a crime-infested pit. And so they've torn down vacant buildings that had been crack houses, and they've grown greenery and plants and crops of corn in the middle of downtown Detroit. And I don't know. Do you want to move there? The last I checked, Detroit's still having some problems. But this one data point that she put out there is sort of a yes, queen moment where everybody's so excited that finally somebody brought the facts and showed John Kennedy that he can stop with all of his racist vitriol in the Senate because he's stupid. He doesn't know the facts.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there's certain.
Now, I hate to rain on Dr. Rani's parade, but that's the worst kind of lie, what you saw right there. It's a fact-based lie. Let me explain. When Senator Kennedy talked about the gun crime in Chicago and the murder rates in Chicago, he was obviously talking about innocent people getting killed by murderers, by gang members, by criminals, or other criminals being killed by other criminals in some kind of shoot 'em out gang warfare, the kind that we see reported about Chicago on a daily basis. Everybody knows that that's what he was talking about. He was talking about the murder rate, the homicide rate, people deliberately during the course of committing a crime, killing another person using a firearm, right? Why do I even have to lay this out? Of course, right. Of course, that's what everybody knows he was talking about. And the numbers that Dr. Rani is relying on to give that statistic that she just gave, well, it's very different. Listen to how she did this fact-based lie.
So Mississippi, Louisiana, and Missouri actually have higher firearm death rates. Obviously, there.
Did you catch it? Did you catch it? Senator Kennedy's talking about the murder rate and criminal deaths due to firearms. That's not what she just quoted. She just said gun-related deaths. And yes, when you talk about accidental deaths due to the mishandling of a firearm, or if you talk about suicides utilizing a firearm, yeah, those numbers bear out. But not if you actually look at the murder rate. If you look at the homicide rate, Billy Binion did the research on Twitter, and he's got the numbers. Mississippi's homicide rates utilizing a gun, 13 per 100,000. Louisiana, 15 per 100,000. Missouri, 11 per 100,000. Chicago, twice as many, 29 murders per 100,000. Now, listen, every death is a tragedy, and certainly every death utilizing a firearm is a tragedy. And I'm not trying to diminish the importance or significance of a suicide or an accidental death. But that's not a matter for this Senate hearing. When Senator Kennedy asked the question, you know, everyone knows that he was talking about the criminal element. And she deflected and she pivoted and she gave a gun-related deaths number, which is bull. And then, of course, Mika Brzezinski decides to do a victory lap and dunk on John Kennedy because she claims she wasn't triggered by him. She sure looked triggered to me. Didn't she look triggered to you? Otherwise, why would they have to lie?